Okay, so you know how everyone's talking about artificial intelligence lately?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
constantly,
yeah. You can't miss it.
right? You scroll online, it's everywhere. Maybe you've even messed around with ChatGPT yourself.
Probably most people have at this point, yeah.
Well, we're going to take that same kind of tech, that AI buzz, and really dive deep into what it actually means for, your health.
For healthcare. Exactly. Let's cut through some of the hype maybe. Our mission here is really to get into the real stuff. What's the current impact? What's the potential down the road?
Yeah, pull out the key insights. We've looked at some pretty interesting sources for this.
Definitely.
And it really does feel like we're standing on the edge of something huge here.
Mm-hmm.
One source we looked at made this really powerful comparison, saying AI in healthcare could be as fundamental as like algebra was for math.
Wow, okay. That's a big statement. Algebra for math.
Yeah, like a total reimagining of how things work. It kind
Oh.
of makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. And, we're not just talking hypotheticals. We're already seeing real changes in some super important areas.
Like what, for instance?
Well, take diagnostic tests, how we read them. AI can analyze scans, images, that kind of stuff with incredible detail,
Okay.
which could mean potentially getting accurate interpretations faster, maybe even when you don't have like a top specialist immediately available.
Huh. So it's not just let's do things faster. It could actually change how we even get a diagnosis, the whole pattern of care.
That's the idea. And it goes beyond just looking at what's wrong now. AI is getting better at predicting future health risks, too.
Predicting risks. Okay, that sounds useful.
Yeah, leading to maybe earlier diagnoses, more precise treatments, and it's even helping speed up the discovery of new drugs, which is, incredibly complex.
Wow, so it's kind of touching everything.
Yeah.
Diagnosis, prediction, treatment development.
Pretty much. It's really starting to permeate how we understand and fight disease.
Which, okay, that naturally brings up some pretty big questions, right?
Yeah,
For anyone listening.
for sure.
Like, is AI going to take jobs from doctors, nurses? Is this the thing that helps us cure major diseases? But also, what are the risks? Who's responsible if an AI makes a mistake?
Those are exactly the right questions, essential ones. It's not just about the cool tech, it's how we weave it into healthcare safely and responsibly.
Okay, so talking about AI in healthcare, it's not like it just popped up yesterday, right? This has been building for a while.
That's a great point. Yeah, our sources definitely remind us AI isn't brand new in medicine. It's been around for years in things like transcribing doctors' notes.
Oh, right. Dictation software and stuff.
Exactly. Or even some of those early chat bots you might have interacted with on a clinic website.
Uh-huh.
But what's really different now, what's causing the big buzz, is generative AI.
Generative AI, like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Creating new stuff.
Exactly. AI that can generate text or images or even synthesize complex medical reports from raw data, like an ECG signal. This is what's sort of supercharging everything.
Supercharging. I like that. So improving old tools, but also making totally new things possible, things we maybe haven't even thought of yet.
Precisely. And this real surge, this practical application in hospitals and labs, it's pretty recent.
How recent are we talking?
Mostly in the last, say, 5 years. It's been pivotal. We've gone from theories and models to actually using AI with real patient data to diagnose, treat.
And personalized treatments more.
Yes, that's a huge piece. Understanding how you specifically might respond to a certain therapy. That's the dream of personalized medicine, really. Tailoring it right down to the individual.
That personalization aspect is fascinating. Now, one area that seemed really interesting was work at Yale Medicine, their CARDS lab.
Ah, yes, the Cardiovascular Data Science Lab, CARDS, founded by Dr. Rohan Kara back in 2020, I believe.
So relatively new still. What are they actually doing there? What's the focus?
Well, the CARDS lab is a great example of applied AI in a really critical field, cardiology. They're working across several key areas. Things like improving diagnostics, like we mentioned, precision care, so tailoring treatments, analyzing cardiac images, echoes, MRIs, in more sophisticated ways.
So using AI to see more in those images.
Essentially, yes. And overall, just building AI tools to help clinicians provide better heart care.
And there was one specific project mentioned, ECGGPT. Kind of catchy name.
It is. ECGGPT is a perfect illustration of that generative AI we were talking about.
Okay, how does it work?
So it takes an ECG, that graph showing your heart's electrical activity,
The squiggly lines.
those squiggly lines. It feeds that data into a deep learning model, and the AI generates a full diagnostic report.
Wow. Instead of waiting for a cardiologist to read it.
Well, not exactly instead. Traditionally, yeah, a highly trained cardiologist interprets those ECGs. The idea with the ECGGPT is it can provide a really accurate initial interpretation very quickly.
Ah, okay. An initial read.
Right, which could make that level of analysis more available, maybe faster, perhaps in places without specialists on hand 24/7. But, crucially, a human clinician still needs to review and confirm that AI report.
Got it. So it's like a superpowered assistant, not a replacement, a first pass that's hopefully very accurate.
That's a good way to put it. And the source mentioned a really compelling example of how it can pick up subtle things.
Yeah, what was that? Something about heart function?
Exactly. Detecting something called left ventricular systolic dysfunction, basically a weaker heart bump, where the ejection fraction is below 40%.
It's okay. And AI can spot that on an ECG.
Apparently, it can pick up patterns in all those different electrical leads, those signals. That might be really subtle, too subtle for a person to reliably catch every single time.
Yeah.
The AI can find these faint clues and even visualize the data differently to highlight them for the doctor. It enhances their ability to see what's going on.
And enhancing, not replacing. That seems key. And making these tools into apps, that sounds important for access too.
Definitely. Getting these tools out there, not just stuck in major research hospitals, but, all this tech raises that other big question.
The human element.
Yeah.
What happens to the doctor-patient relationship?
Exactly. That's a really vital point. There's definitely a tension or maybe a challenge in fitting AI into how doctors and nurses already work.
Yeah, you can't just drop it in there.
No. But the sources we looked at, they strongly emphasize that clinicians are still going to be absolutely essential.
Why is that?
Because they're the ones talking to you, the patient, understanding your life, your worries, your preferences, and they take the AI's output and put it in context.
Context, right. The AI gives data. The human gives meaning.
Sort of, yeah. That empathy, that communication, that nuanced judgment, that's still fundamentally human and seems irreplaceable.
That makes sense. AI does the number crunching, the pattern finding, but the interpretation, the conversation, that stays human. But how do we make sure this powerful AI is used, well, properly, responsibly?
Good question. There are definitely efforts happening, big ones.
Like what? Is there oversight?
Yes. So regulatory bodies like the FDA in the U.S., they're overseeing certain AI applications to check for safety and effectiveness.
Okay, so there's some government check.
Mm-hmm. And then you have big medical groups like the American Medical Association, the National Academy of Medicine. They're developing ethical guidelines, codes of conduct.
So the profession itself is trying to set standards.
Exactly. There's a whole community of experts, ethicists, doctors working on promoting responsible use. It's an ongoing process for sure.
It's good to hear that's happening. And it was interesting that one source noted we haven't seen huge numbers of misdiagnoses caused only by AI yet.
Right. And that's probably because, as we said, there's still that human doctor involved in making the actual diagnosis and prescribing treatment.
That human safety net is still there.
For now, yes.
Yeah.
Which is critical as the tech develops. Now, shifting gears a little, sounds like there's a lot of money pouring into this space.
Oh, yeah. Big money. The investment numbers are pretty wild. Since just 2020, venture capital funding for AI in healthcare, it shot up, hitting around, what, $11 billion this year?
$11 billion. Wow, that's serious investment.
Shows the level of belief in this technology's potential, doesn't it?
Absolutely. But it also brings up an interesting point about priorities, maybe.
How so?
Well, the source suggested there might be a bit of a difference between what academic researchers focus on versus some AI startups.
Ah, okay. Academics might be really digging into fine-tuning the AI models, making sure they're robust, developing those ethical guidelines we talked about.
Right, the deep validation, whereas startups, well, they often need to move faster, right? Get products out to market, different pressures.
Makes sense. Academics looking at long-term impact, maybe societal good. Startups focused on innovation, speed, getting that next funding round, perhaps. Not always, but sometimes different drivers.
And it's not just venture capital. Big institutions are investing heavily themselves. Right, like the Yale example again. They're putting $150 million into AI development over the next 5 years. That's a huge internal commitment.
So massive potential, tons of investment. But what are the biggest risks we really need to watch out for here?
You know, the number one risk, the thing that kept coming up in the sources, is basically ensuring responsible and consistent use.
Responsible use.
Yeah.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
It means having really clear processes, having checks and balances, stage gates, reviews before any AI tool gets used on
To
patients.
make sure it's actually safe.
Exactly.
Fair.
Safe, effective, fair,
Yeah.
equitable, making sure it doesn't worsen health disparities, for instance. That needs to be the absolute foundation before we roll these things out widely. Non-negotiable.
That makes total sense. You need guardrails, strong ones,
Yeah.
especially with something as important as health.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of circles back to those big questions from the start, doesn't it? Who's liable if something goes wrong? How do we handle errors? What are the ethics? Lots of unanswered questions still.
Definitely. The technology is moving incredibly fast, sometimes faster than our ability to figure out all the rules and societal implications.
So we started off asking, is AI the future of healthcare? But maybe the real question, the one a source posed, is, will it actually make us healthier?
Yeah, and they called that the million life question, not just $1 million, which feels right.
A million life question. I like that.
Because the potential is there, it's huge. But whether it translates to better health for everyone, that depends.
Depends on what.
Well, access is key. Will everyone who could benefit actually get these AI tools? Or will it just be for the wealthy or well-connected?
Good point. The equity issue again.
Yeah. And usability. Are they designed well? Easy for doctors and patients to use effectively. And then there's just our willingness to engage, to trust these tools appropriately.
So it's not just about inventing the tech. It's about how we deploy it, how we integrate it, how accessible it is.
Precisely. Tech alone isn't the answer. It needs careful integration. And that source ended with a really powerful comparison, didn't it?
Yeah, comparing AI to other huge inventions, like the transistor, the camera, the telephone, even the source code for the World Wide Web.
Right. Things that didn't just tweak healthcare, they fundamentally transformed it. Enabled things like telemedicine, electronic records, MRI scans.
Things we now take for granted, almost.
Exactly. And the suggestion is that AI might be in that same category, a truly foundational shift.
Potentially transformative on that scale.
Oh.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe the real question for everyone listening to think about is, what will it actually mean for you, personally?
Yeah.
To have AI become part of your own healthcare, your checkups, your treatments. What are your hopes for that? What are your maybe fears or reservations?
And beyond the personal, what are those bigger ripples, the societal shifts that come with this kind of technology becoming embedded in something so fundamental as health?
It's definitely a conversation that's just getting started, isn't it?
Absolutely. And one where everyone's perspective really does matter as we figure this out together.